In this video, we start the teardown process of the 80 Series Land Cruiser.
Stop it. We're not saying that on camera.
For those of you who have been following the channel for a long time, sadly the Sequoia's gone. Don't worry though, it went to good owners in Texas. They were fantastic buyers. They saw the car online, they agreed to a price, they wired the money, and now they own it. So it couldn't be any better for me because the car's going to somebody who really wants that type of rig, and we get to now focus on the 80 Series. And to be completely honest with you, I feel like the 80 Series is going to suit our family needs a little bit better. It's a little bit smaller, it's a little bit more nimble, and it just works best for the rigs out here in Washington compared to a giant Sequoia. Now that we got all that out of the way, let's turn our focus to the engine bay of the Toyota Land Cruiser. Now, when we first got this car, I was so stoked on getting a FZJ80 that I met with the people who were selling the car. We agreed on a price. They were a fantastic couple. Told me the story of the car. They owned it for 15 years. It's been with them all around the country. And so I said, hey, I got to buy this car. This is definitely going to be the car for Emily and I. It's going to go live another life. And I was so stoked on buying the car, I didn't really give the car a huge look over on what was wrong with it. Now, I knew there was head gasket issues with this engine. When there were cold starts, some of the cylinders would fill with coolant and it would buck back, and then eventually it would crank over. But if you know anything about engines, if any fluid gets in the cylinder that isn't fuel, and that cylinder tries to compress that fluid, you're either going to bend rods, bend valves, or crack a block. And I don't know how long the previous owner tried to start it when it was in that type of condition. I'm not going to try and start it in this video, but if you were to crank it over, you'll hear it go go, like buck really hard, clear out the cylinders from all that coolant, and then finally it'll start and run, and then there'll be a bad smoke coolant leak. So I figured, hey, that's just a head gasket. Let me buy the car anyway. I'll bring it home. I can pop in a new head. I can go from there. It won't be a big deal. And then the more and more I think about this car, the more I realize, you know, I don't know how many times that engine was cranked over with fluid in the cylinders. I don't know if just a head is going to solve the problem. For those of you who are watching who are Land Cruiser pros, you probably already know where this is going. You probably already know things about this engine that I don't know. So please drop your comments below and let me know the stuff I don't know. But all I know is like general engine knowledge, and if you have fluid in the cylinders and you try to start it and you do that more than once, you're gonna bend rods, damage the block, or damage valves. And so instead of me just thinking, hey, this is gonna be an easy fix with a quick little head job or head gasket, my gut is telling me it's gonna be a big fix. So today I wanted to inspect the engine and see really how big of a fix it would be. And today I'm looking for things like oil leaks or any kind of fluid leaks from the head or from the block that would really indicate to me that, hey, it's going to need more than just a head gasket. And I can see here the distributor's leaking big time. There's tons of grease on that. I can see that the valve cover is leaking a lot. I can see all the grease and oil just in the front of the valve cover. You can see that that looks to be like the water neck the head is leaking onto the water neck. Now you can totally see in here, it was nice and blue, there's definitely a new gasket on the valve cover, and the valve cover's been cleaned up, but the leak is below that. You can see the AC compressor is just covered in grease and soot, and the frame looks to be in good shape. It doesn't look to have any damage on here or anything. But I will say too that when I first started the engine and warmed it up, there was a smoke leak coming from the back of the head here, and now that I have the camera and the light on here, you can see tons of oil was just leaking out of the back of the head. So for me, these signs, now I haven't dug any deeper, I haven't gotten underneath the car. The frame is straight, the suspension is straight. These signs are really kind of pointing more towards an engine replacement, an engine rebuild, or an engine swap. And I think my gut is telling me it's time to do an engine swap. I don't know what swap we're doing yet. I haven't bought any new engines. I have some money for a swap, but really the primary goal is to take this bad boy, this entire car, fully outfitted with the family, to Moab to camp for the first time take all 3 dogs, take everything, and I want to get to Moab in this car. And the number one thing we're going to need is a reliable engine first. All the other stuff, 4-wheel drive doesn't work, you get a flat tire, the suspension breaks, whatever. Like, that's not that important. Really, the most important thing is a reliable engine. Today is our first day of really sorting out what needs to happen in this engine bay to pull this bad boy out and focus on getting this thing to Moab. All right, we got the battery box off. My Cheryl. We got the battery box off. And you can see there were some critters that lived in this engine bay. That means this car sat for a long time. And they started chewing their way through the harness here. Luckily, none of these wires are chewed up, but something definitely chewed its way through the harness and got to those wires and then decided to stop. And there's a nice little pile of pitch here. Gotta love living in Washington. Here's a nice little pile of rat droppings, but the engine bay is already starting to look better. We got the air box off, we got the battery box off. That's my socket, and I'm going to keep working. Eventually we're going to start to pull the radiator, pull a lot of the lines, and then just really open up this whole area so I can get in and take the engine and transmission out. This was my first time tackling an engine this size out of any rig. I've pulled engines before out of a 1982 Corolla, out of a 1984 Corolla, and 4AG, 3TCs. Those were pretty easy. In fact, if I was drank enough energy drink, I'd probably bench press those engines. But this, on the other hand, this was extremely difficult. Pulling all the stuff around the engine, getting it ready to be removed, took me 2.5 days. Just getting access to the radiator alone took me over a day. The front valance has to come off, the headlights have to come off, the corners have to come off. Everything has to come off so you can get access to the bolts that hold the radiator in place. Now that's a really good thing because there's not just 2 bolts that hold the radiator in place. There's, I think, 4 or 6. Every other car I've ever worked on only has 2. So when people say these rigs are overbuilt, I get a sense why. Now, this is taking me a long time because I'm learning as I'm doing here. No one really taught me how to do any of this stuff, and I'm trying to make sure everything is perfect, nothing breaks, nothing gets yanked out of place, so I'm taking my time with it. But if you are going to tackle this job, just prepare for a gargantuan task ahead of you pulling this engine out of the rig. Been about a half day's worth of work, for over 2 days, if that makes sense. About 2 hours last night and about 2 hours today, and we got the front end off, we got the airbox off, we got the heat shields off, and I just pulled the distributor and I pulled the power steering, and I'm just gonna kind of work my way around here to kind of get things out of the way so I can get underneath the engine and pull all the wires off, all the sensors off, and really just kind of free up the engine from the engine bay. There's tons of stuff in here. I've been trying my best to label it. So like, on this harness here, I wrote like right headlight, so I knew where to go. Ground, in there I have like ground ahead. Some of this other stuff I didn't label because like obviously it's power steering, easy to know. But I do want to show you guys something. When in the beginning of the video, when I said, hey, this engine's leaking a lot, it had head gasket issues, and I really feel that no matter what, I should pull the engine and either rebuild this one or install a new one. Well, I'm really glad that I'm going the direction I'm going, because that is what the distributor looks like inside the head. You could see it's a pure milkshake, baby. Milkshake and sludge. Now, I'm okay with a little bit of oil sludge on distributors because, oil builds up, etc. But I mean, look at all the sludge on the outside of it. That means the seal was leaking at one point. This looks like maybe someone may have replaced it. But I mean, the milkshake though, the milkshake is just so bad. Coolant and oil got into the head at the same time, and the engine was running for quite some time like that. That is not confidence inspiring at all. This is kind of the hardest part, is disconnecting everything in the engine bay, and seeing stuff like this is not confidence inspiring. We made some progress in pulling some of the parts off the engine bay here. I've soaked the engine bay in degreaser. I know a lot of people would like clean the engine bay after the engine is pulled out, but really I just want to take a break today and I want to make a mess. I'm going to pressure wash this bad boy and see what happens. It's pretty early in the morning, so hopefully all this water dries later and I can get underneath the car. I know I'm gonna make a mess for myself, but I really don't care. I just want to spray it down and see what happens. The degreaser on the fender wells before I pressure washed it really made a huge difference in this fender here. Now we're gonna move over to this side, and you can see I haven't pressure washed anything. It's just kind of soaking with degreaser, and this side is really the cause of all the grease. A lot of grease dripping from the head, some grease dripping from the steering box. So you guys are gonna watch me spray this in real time. Be careful because this camera's about to be in the splash zone. We got the oil filter off and you can see it is just milkshake time. But what's interesting to me right now is there's no oil in the oil filter. It's kind of hard for y'all to see on camera, but you can see the chambers of the oil filter are totally empty. I wonder if this engine had a hard time building oil pressure due to the fact that everything was so milkshakey. Day 3 of pulling the engine out. My buddy Zach came over in the most incredible Echo of all time. And you may recognize Zach as one of our first videos we've ever made. Thank you, Zach, for that. We got the engine sorted. We got the wire loom pulled through. We got everything disconnected. We got the ECU disconnected. We got the wire disconnected from the firewall. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try and move the entire 80 series back because we got to get the cherry picker here. We're going to do our best to pull the engine and transmission out. So that's going to be another, I'd say, 3 to 4 feet. And so the 80 series needs to move back probably 5 to 6 feet. Put the cherry picker here. Oh, take the hood off. Lift up everything. I don't know if we're going to be able to do this. If we do, this is going to be a huge moment. And then we're going to put the engine, transmission, and everything inside the garage so it doesn't get ruined. You can see that just spraying it with some of the degreaser kind of worked. I mean, we got some of the oil running down here. As you can see, some of the oil's coming off the valve cover. And I actually got some of the blue Toyota stickers to show up a little bit better from the degreaser. Now that it's dried off a little bit, time to pull off all the sensors out of the transfer case, and I'm going to work my way up here. I've seen it. just pulled off the water pump, and while the water pump itself looks great, look at what's in the engine. I mean, that's so bad. We're gonna work on pulling the transfer case and this entire unit from here out. All right, she's separated. Never done anything like this in my life. I still have the shifter on here. I still have all the servos and electronics. Looks like there's a vacuum line here as well. I don't know where this goes, but yeah, sure. I think it goes to this thing, honestly. And so I'm gonna try, and I've removed the speed output cable or whatever. So I'm gonna try. There's a dowel here. I'm gonna try and lift this bad boy and move it into my garage somewhere. All right, there comes some fluid. Okay, next one. All right. Ta-da! All right, it's the next day, and we went straight into cleaning the transfer case. I don't need to clean this. I mean, it works just fine, and there was nothing wrong with the transfer case. There was the stereotypical leak on where the speedometer plug right there. Stereotypical leak there. So I'll do a gasket kit to fix that, but we really got this nice and cleaned up. And for those of you wondering what cleans up, what's the best degreaser to use, highly recommend 45% vinegar. Now this is actually like so strong that it can like hurt you or harm your skin or your pets. So highly recommend you wear protection when you do this, gloves, and these sick eye protection stoggles that I got. They're way better than the ones I was using a couple days ago. They fit my face a little bit better, and they have my side protection here. But overall, this looks good. My garage and my driveway are a complete mess. The transmission we took out the other day, and I kind of laid it on its side, and then it just leaked transmission fluid, which I know is like totally hazardous, but whatever. I also can't believe how heavy these things are. Holy shit. So this is a really good spot for us to end this video. We went from getting this thing into the driveway, inspecting it, pulling the front end off, pulling the engine and transmission out, pulling the subframe off, pulling everything off, then taking the engine and transmission and pulling everything apart in the driveway. So you can still see we got case bolts here. We got the transfer case there, and then we got the transfer case bolts underneath the stool there. Now it's time to move on to the next phase. What engine is going to go inside the Land Cruiser? Now I have my line on an engine that I'm super excited about, and I haven't really said anything about it in this video yet. But fingers crossed it all works out, because I'm going to see it tomorrow, and that's a great excuse to have another episode. So thank you guys so much for watching. This was a big task. I've never done anything like this in my life. We're trying to get the Land Cruiser to Moab this year, and that means we need a really reliable rig. And the Land Cruiser that we brought home really needed a lot of love. So follow along, because the next chapter we're going to try and put a heart back in this bad boy. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.